All right, good morning, GM. Folks, welcome to another episode of FOMO Hour. This is episode 195, 5 away from the big 200. Next Friday's show is going to be a special one, folks. I'm already excited. Episode 200 episodes of FOMO Hour. Folks, today is Friday, September 6th, 2024. It's a cooler, overcast morning here in Chicago today. It is fairly cloudy, feels like fall. The future of the U.S. economy also feels a little bit cloudy after a shaky jobs report this morning. And now all eyes are on Jerome Powell and how deep of a cut he is ready to make on those interest rates. We're going to break it all down on today's show. No Farokh, but big news. Farokh is back on Monday. We are very excited to have him back. We miss him. I think it's also his 30th birthday, either today or tomorrow. So shout out to Farokh. Happy birthday to him. Mando likely joining us here in a bit. We've got Logan Hitchcock on with us as always here this week. Logan, Jim, how you doing?
Hey, good morning, Tyler. Doing pretty well. Yeah, feeling the same. We're in the same weather patterns right now. So I'm feeling, pretty similar to you. Okay, with a little bit of a cool down. Hopefully the market, though, starts heating up despite the weather.
I felt like I would get a little more excitement out of you just because of where we're at this U.S. Open tournament. So we've got, the two Americans doing off tonight. So one of them is guaranteed to be in the finals. And when's the last time there was an American in the U.S. Open final? Do we know?
Well, a man, 2003. Wow. Or maybe later than that. The last win was 2003, Andy Roddick. So it's gonna be really fun. We're guaranteed. Jessica Pegula won last night, an American. She came back from a set down, so she's in the U.S. Open final on the women's side as well. So opportunities abound for the U.S. tennis.
I feel like it's going to be electric at that stadium. Stadium is the correct word.
It's an arena, Arthur Ashe Arena. It's an incredible atmosphere. If you're a tennis fan, it's the biggest tennis arena in the world. It's unbelievable, and those two guys playing tonight will be just a tremendous atmosphere. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so if you got nothing else going on tonight, maybe tune in for that semifinal. The final will be Sunday night, I believe. So that's going to be a big one. Folks, we're going to talk about more than tennis on today's show. What are we talking about? Some big topics for today. We're going to start with the quick market report. We've got this big jobs data that came out just about an hour ago and what it might mean for interest rates. We've got debate bingo now on Polymarket. What the hell is that? We're going to talk about that. Some breaking Nero news. We thought Nero was dead. It is far, far from dead. Fantasy Top finally turning a profit. It's looking sustainable. We had an 8-punk move for $1.5 million. That's the lowest in 3 years. Magic Eden going international with a bit of a surprise yesterday. A new vape to earn project, a new tokenized film fund on Avac, and a whole lot more. There's a lot to get into. A lot of breaking news this morning, in fact. So excited to get into it. No Rollbit today. We are going to push that to next week. We're going to go super hard on Rollbit here next week. But I do want to give a shout out to our new partner, Galaxis. Galaxis, a no-code Web3 platform that empowers creators and communities to become owners. Check out @GalaxisXYZ on X. We are excited to have them on board. All right. With that, let's get into the market report here. I'm going to get the screen share fired up for those who are in the stream. Give me a second on that. All right. We should have that up. So, taking a look at the crypto board, it looks like we are down. So dipping a bit here this morning. Bitcoin down about 3%, 55,570. ETH down 2%, 2350. Solana down 4% at 130. It kind of feels like a chop / down week in general. So if we zoom out, I think we are down a touch. Been kind of started the week around 59K. So now down below 56. If we take a look at the monthly, we basically just traded exactly sideways for the entire month here on Bitcoin. Had a rally up to 64K. That got us all excited. We thought it was so back. Turns out not indeed back, at least just yet. The big news from the macro markets here this morning was the U.S. jobs data. So a few key numbers. Walter Bloomberg reporting this morning, U.S. unemployment rate actual came in at 4.2% versus 4.3%. That's exactly where it was estimated. But U.S. non-farm payrolls came in under, so 142,000 versus 165,000. The reason that is important here this morning is some of the big banks have been trying to figure out what is the path to Jerome Powell and the Fed cutting interest rates, either 25 bips or 50. Zero Hedge tweeted out a handy little matrix yesterday. They basically said that if the jobs number was 4.19% or lower, it was going to be 25, 4.3% or higher, 50 bips. And then if it was in the middle, that it would depend on the payroll numbers. The payroll numbers did come in slightly under 150K. So if you're following the Goldman rate cut matrix, then 50 bips is where the Fed would be leaning based purely on the data. They continue to say that they will let the data guide their decisions. We've had Mando come on, earlier in the week when we were talking about this and saying effectively the risk or the concern with them going 50 over 25 is it's kind of admitting that they waited too long, or perhaps that they're missing the soft landing, and that's perhaps why they would go softer with 25 out of the gate, even though the data does seem to show that it should be 50. We did see a bit of a move in the market. Oh, wow, it looks like the move has already been erased. So perhaps the market is already shaking off the news. 50 bips briefly shot up to about 40%. I'm seeing, where do we got? 38 cents here. After the news broke this morning, it looks like it has since dropped back to 30%, which is where it was. So folks, don't think, I guess, assuming it's not enough for the 50 bips that we thought it might in fact be. So I'm a little bit surprised with that. I want to say that the broader interest rate markets are pricing is still a little bit higher, but I haven't checked on it here this morning. Looks like we've got the Mando on with us now. Mando, GM, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic. We'd be feeling a little bit better if this 50 bips odds were a bit touch higher on Polymarket. It is one of my bigger bets out there. We just started talking about the jobs data. I shared this Goldman matrix that they laid out. We talked about the numbers. Curious if you had any read on that. Of course, we've been talking about that this week. I thought the numbers would show more likelihood towards the 50 bips, but it seems like maybe the market's shaking that off. Curious if you've had a chance to.
It's a small miss. It's like a small miss, nothing crazy. Like we're within a 20K difference. That shouldn't really cause the market to like absolutely get hammered. And sequentially, it's obviously higher as well, which is slightly better. I don't think it's that we're in that much of like a worry with it. But the market's gonna have a little bit of wobble. We've kind of already said this, everyone comes back from holiday, and you always have volatility in September in broader macro markets. So I'd be really unsurprised if the S&P dropped like 5 to 10% this month. I wouldn't be surprised. It's just the way that it often happens in September. Crypto just feels like it's been on like a one-way train.
It's not great.
So yeah, like it's not really ideal.
Yeah, I'm curious. Is it the jobs data impacting crypto? Is it just this continued downtrend here this month? Any read on kind of what's happening broadly in the crypto markets today?
Nothing new other than like nothing's happening. So that gets people very, very worried, particularly for L1s. As I've said before, it feels like Bitcoin has its own drivers at the moment, which are maybe a bit more macro, a bit more similar to like what's been going on in gold, the weakness in the dollar, of all kind of matter a bit more for Bitcoin. I've seen a number of like notable traders go a bit more bearish on Bitcoin, saying that they think they're going to go around to like 50K. There is a lot of demand around 50K on the order books. So I think most people, think that will probably hold, or at least that will be a very, very big fight for it to go below 50K, for example. But like Arthur Hayes, Peter Brandt, two like relatively well-known traders came out and said, "Look, I'm shorting it. I think it's going lower." I'd be unsurprised. This month can have that, and I've said that I want to buy this month. Like, I'm moving my JLP bags into Bitcoin. So like, I'm happy every single time this thing goes, because I moved them into stables, and now I'm going to move them into Bitcoin. I've got like a DCA going for the next 45 days. And I just hope that 2 weeks before the election, I've got a big old bag of Bitcoin around 50K. And I think I think it's going to be a good Q4. That's basically what I think.
Oh, like that's music to my ears. Big Q4. I think that does make sense. I mean, historically, if you look at the numbers, September is a good month to buy. It can be painful in the moment, but then Q4 turns around. You mentioned the election. I mean, Trump's lead is expanding. Nate Silver, I've been following his modeling closely. He's got it at 60-40. So Polymarket's is not even conforming to Silver's model at 53-46 for Trump. And Silver is primarily tying it to Kamala's underperformance in a few key swing states, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona. So it seems like she is not performing as well there. All eyes are going to be on the debate. I think that's going to be the next big one. I think it's really hard to have much of a read on this coin flip right now until we get that first debate. Then I think we could see perhaps a swing one way or another. Kind of coming back to macro, a few tweets that I thought were interesting I wanted to talk about here this morning. So OSF said, the way I see it, either you want to gamble on a Q4 rally or you don't. If you do, now is a good spot as ever. Pretty similar to what you just said, Mando. And then Elio Trades commenting, everyone in my chat's saying 44K or way lower. Everyone is mostly in stables. Maybe they're all right. Maybe extreme fear and sideliners will mark the bottom once again. So it seems like you've got a few folks who agree with you. Logan, any reads from your side or reactions to either of these tweets here?
Nothing crazy. I do want to point out, just from that coin market cap, each and every day you pull that up, I've been looking at that fear number, and it continues to drift lower. I know, you can't take too much from the fear and greed index, but down to 30. So, however they're building that with whatever sentimental tools, people are not feeling super comfy. But to go back to those tweets, the tweet from Ovi was the one that resonated most with me. That's what we've been talking about here, right? For the last couple of months, his expectations around CHOP up until an election, up until a Q4. Can you stomach it as someone who's here every single day, seeing the headlines, seeing the drawdowns, watching Bitcoin drop hundreds of or thousands of dollars, during the show? Can you stomach that? And are you willing to gamble on it going up during this time period in which most people have suggested this is the most likely period for it to go up? So I'm feeling okay, comfortable. If I, not comfortable, of course, in seeing the price go down, but just I'm not panicked in any way. This doesn't feel like it's deviating too, distinctly from what we've been expecting or suggesting is a probable plan or outcome.
It's interesting that you commented on the fear and greed index. So I remember seeing it in March, and so I guess it got to 90 plus. And at that point in time, of course, I was, somewhat euphoric. All of our bags were at their local highs. And I was shaking it off. I was like, there's no way we're at 90 greed. But in fact, that was the top, right? So there is something to this.
I mean, there's got to be a good overlay of this and the price chart.
This is basically the Bitcoin chart or the Solana chart right here, right?
Right. I mean, not to be so cliche, right? But there's the Buffett quote, the famous Buffett quote. There's lots of quotes about selling into the euphoria and buying the fear. This is, if you need indicators, this is one of them. If you need to talk yourself into buying, maybe this is one of those things. Just scroll the timeline. That's probably enough in many cases.
Yeah, so I think we are at yearly lows then, basically. Yeah, so we're at yearly lows on the fear and greed index. That feels notable, headed into Solana breakpoint, headed into Q4, headed into the election. I think the other tweet that I thought was interesting here from Kaleo, He's quote tweeting Trader Cause saying this has been the most boring cycle of all time. He says he 100% disagrees, saying that the cycle has barely even gotten started and that we've already seen some insane moves across the board, some entertaining daps, some crazy moves in memes, a solid airdrop farm every few months. Mando, curious if you have any thoughts on that or reactions to either Kaleo's thoughts or if this is the most boring cycle of all time so far.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult because I think there is just a real focus on cycles in crypto. Like 4 years has to be done at this time, and I just don't know if cycles just assumes that we all just come back and buy what we bought last cycle, right? Like it's kind of a bit strange. Like there feels to be that, and that's not really how markets work or how tech works either. I don't know how to describe it, but like, let's say we said originally, like the internet went through a cycle. You wouldn't necessarily go through and buy the same companies that didn't make it in the last tech cycle. But in crypto, they kind of stick around and they have like a market cap. Do you see I guess what I'm trying to say is it's always kind of weird to talk about it like that. I think what we've seen is that Bitcoin's shown real adoption, and the concept of blockchains being used for payments and tokenization, DeFi, NFTs has all shown adoption, but it's still unclear how those L1 wars are going to kind of end. And I think Bitcoin is the thing that probably takes us out of this again. But I wouldn't be sitting there hoping that someone's going to come in and buy your altcoins or buy anything. To be honest, I just don't know if I subscribe to the concept of like the cycle will come back and like all these bags will all come back. Like they may just never come back and Bitcoin just keeps on going, and then maybe just like Sol, ETH, and I would say select memes probably stick around.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that along with Kaleo. And if we replace the word cycle here with just the most boring year, like this has been, if you said this has been the most boring year of all time, I would disagree with that as well. I mean, Q1 was pretty damn electric. And then we had a pretty massive airdrop season. Even the blast airdrop, though it disappointed, was still a pretty sizable one for a lot of folks who participated in that. We've got, poly market breaking out into, mainstream media as a crypto app. So I don't know. I think there's been some successful stories you could point to. I will admit the last few months have been fairly boring, but that's not enough to discount the whole year. In other non-boring news, we got some breaking news from Binance this morning. Nero on Ethereum is getting the Binance listing. The market liked it quite a bit. Just earlier in the week, we'd pulled up the Nero chart. It looked like it was over, and now it is so back. So it is up, almost 100% on the day at $155 million market cap. It touched 190. Yeah, so it was all the way back to 190, just 20, 25, 30% below its all-time high. I am curious where it goes from here. I was talking with Logan before the show, Mando. Curious for your thoughts. So when Turbo got the Binance listing, all the price action front ran the announcement. So clearly it had been leaked. Insiders knew it. This is like the opposite. So the token did not move at all until this news broke. And then we saw this massive candle. I don't know that we've really seen a meme coin candle like this for a 9-figure meme coin in quite some time. So it feels big. It still feels like there's some energy left in the market, but curious if you have any reads on Nero.
Feels like an exit pump. Feels like as soon as I got that Bybit listing, right? You see this a lot of times with different coins, right? You can then short it and then basically engineer like a massive dump by shorting it, like hammering it lower, keep on shorting, make a ton of money shorting it, and then wait for the listing and then buy it back up again. Like you can really, if you have enough control of the supply and you start to get futures listing, you can like really play some games, and it feels like they did it well.
Yeah.
Is this the Like the youngest coin to ever be added. I mean, this is only
Oh,
a month.
Boom did it in 24
Oh.
hours, which was why it was so
Good point.
shocking. But yeah, it's a pretty quick run, right? Like this thing is, wow, it's older than I thought. So this was made in July. Wow. Okay. I mean, the price chart was terrible. So you mentioned this was the exit pump. So I actually thought that this candle on the 4th was the exit pump, and I did exit right around 60 million. So I missed this 1.5x move here. But such is life.
This was made in July? Wasn't the announcement about the brother like a month ago?
I mean, a month ago was early August.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess it's sorry. Just poor.
But this is still some of the worst price action I've ever. Like this is more than like your classic like 70% drawdown. This was like 90%. It seemed like it was over. So I really thought this was the exit pump. But kudos to anyone who held on through this. Congrats on your gains. Moving on. Well, I guess one more meme coin story. Let me see if I can get this. We'll just quickly touch on it. So Machi's token is going live here today. He's calling it this IBLV event. I'm not really sure what that stands for. Looks like they're targeting a $5 million raise. For those who signed up, they'll be able to see what their allocations were in the links in this thread. Community round starting today, 3 p.m. UTC. That's probably like right around now, perhaps right after the show. It's going to last an hour. A public round starting on Saturday. I want to say I also saw some incentives that Baseline Markets is putting forward. There's going to be roughly, Logan, I don't know if you had those top of mind here. Like $100,000 or 100,000 blast gold.
Yeah,
it's to depositors.
It's gold going to depositors in the first 24 hours. The 100,000 sounds right, but I'm not entirely sure. But I believe it is gold. It's not USD or USDC or anything like that.
Yeah, makes sense. So if the weekend is quiet, I don't know, this could be one to watch. We talked about this token on prior shows. The differentiator here is it's on Baseline, so which makes it unruggable in quotes, which perhaps puts a backstop on this thing. And it's Machi. Machi seems to have infinite bags. So if he's pumping this, perhaps it has some upside. We will certainly see. Perhaps we'll be reporting on this on Monday. A fun story that broke yesterday is we now have political bingo cards. This was not on my bingo card headed into the debate. So ahead of the debate, Pollyanna Market has spun up these. They are effectively our parlay cards. So these are tied to the mention markets. Now they basically set up bingo cards with different mentions from each of the candidates. So if Kamala says DEI, if Trump says fake news, so on and so forth, you get to cross off those squares. It is played like traditional bingo, so straight lines, diagonals, you get the free space. And then if you hit a bingo, you win the bet. And I believe they've got 3 bingo cards laid out so far. The bingo card I've got pulled up right now in the stream, for those who are in the stream, I think it was at 29 cents, 29% chance that you would get a bingo on this card, which means if you put a $100 bet, you'll win something like $330 if you hit a bingo. It's effectively a complicated parlay card. So you are parlaying different combinations of mentions. So I think if you sat down and did the math on all of these, you'd be able to find the edge. I'm not really sure. This is a pretty new market, not a whole lot bet. I'm not sure if anyone has sat down and done it yet, but it's a fun idea, and it seems like it has some real potential use cases beyond just this debate. Logan, I'll toss it to you. Any reactions to Pollyanna Market bingo?
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I mean, I like the innovation. I think it's cool. The odds, as you mentioned, you could sit down and try to figure them out. They are likely horrible to need to get, like 5 of those things to come true. For like 20, I don't know the implied probabilities off the top of my head, but you could, sit down, go to a betting calculator and figure it out pretty quickly to understand whether or not the parlay that you're choosing, the different whatever, it's only rows, columns, no 4 corners, nothing weird like that. But you could figure it out to see how much edge is there, or lack thereof. So I'm guessing it's probably not great odds to be betting on yes for some of these, but fun nonetheless. I think it's really interesting potential idea, just a new way for people to interact and follow along, which so many people are going to be doing anyway.
I think they need to fix the UI. So when you go to this bet on their site, you just see debate bingo 1, you see the odds. You have to scroll into the rules to get the actual card. I think some people are probably going to miss this because of that. I guess I don't see the volume on this market anywhere. Are you seeing it? Yeah, they don't. I think for the newer markets, perhaps they don't share that. So it's unclear how much has really been wagered on this. The book looks pretty thin. So yeah, a few $100 is going to move the market.
If you start typing debate bingo in the search bar, Tyler, it's showing me the little numbers underneath.
All right, what do we have here? Oh, so
yes,
2K,
it's very, very small.
Yeah, so tiny market right now. Man, are you be playing debate bingo ahead of next week's debate? So
I'm really looking forward to that debate, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be good. Like, she hasn't really said that much, right? Like, she's had one of the interviews, and I still don't really know what any of her policies are, apart from like hearsay, and sometimes they get walked back, and you just don't really know. So I think it's gonna be really good. Like, maybe she massively outperforms and comes through and smashes it, or maybe it's a bit like the Biden one. Like, I actually just genuinely don't know. I think it's gonna be great to watch. So yeah, I'll be watching it. I'll be betting on it.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think this is the biggest single day, I think, for poly market since, I don't even recall like the last spike in volume. So we saw a huge spike on the VP when Kamala's VP was announced. What was the last live event that was heavily bet, Logan? Do you remember?
Was the Trump Elon? Was that a?
Oh yeah, the Trump Elon was probably the last big single event. Like, this should be much bigger. Like, I'm pulling up the debate market right now on Poly. I mean, there's dozens. There's dozens of bets. I'm just trying to find the winner, which the winner is a tricky one, but some interesting ones. So you've got the mentions markets. Will they actually debate? That seems like a lock. Yes. You can bet on the number of debates. Favorite to win on poly market 1 week after. So that's saying who's going to be the leader in the poly market election bet. Who's asked the first question? Kamala getting 64%. That's a fun. That's effectively like the coin flip bet of the debate here. Will they shake hands? I'd probably bet no on that one. Who will win the debate according to the poll? So this is probably the most interesting to me. Let's see. So this has got Kamala at 70%, which goes against what I would have thought people would have been betting. I would have thought this was the opposite.
Is this just like differential in polling numbers after? Or
yeah, the rules are the market will resolve to Kamala if Ipsos 538. Okay, so 538's like.
Okay, so it's actual.
So their opinion polls. So these two, Ipsos and 538, are going to run out opinion polls on who won. And then you're betting on the results of those polls. I think 538 has been more left leaning than anything else of the polls that I've seen. So that's probably why this market is leaning that way. But I think, at least from crypto Twitter sentiment, it does not seem like folks think Kamala is going to win with the 70% rate right now. So perhaps that's going to be one to watch. The debate bingo, I think, is going to be a fun one. I'm definitely going to be playing a little bit of this. So I guess there are no no's on this, I guess, Logan. So that was kind of your point. So you're effectively betting yes on all of these parlays. So you're going to need a lot of things to happen. I think what's the difference between the debate and like some of these rallies is each candidate only has like 2 or 3 minutes to respond to questions. So like the long Trump rants where he covers all these words at his rallies, like that's not going to happen. He's not going to have the ability to do that. So your odds of yeses are already going to be smaller. But I mean, these are some pretty, I don't know, these are some pretty standard words. Like Project 2025, Harris is going to say that. Them saying abortion, I think that's pretty likely. Not going back. Like, she's definitely going to say that. This is the question of, are you going to get everything in the line? But it's going to be a fun one to watch. That's for sure. And then Logan, you had let me see if I can get back to this. So Trump, the news from yesterday, Trump made some, what were his crypto comments from yesterday? He said like the US is going to be the crypto capital or something.
Well, there was that, and then there was also somebody had shared a report from the Wall Street Journal that indicated that Trump was going to be, doubling down. I can't remember the exact terminology, but basically speaking on crypto and the economy a little bit more, or whatever. And so I ran to these markets right away after seeing that report, thinking that they were referencing these talks, only to find out they weren't. But nevertheless, this market has actually moved up since that time anyway. So yeah, I think I bet this yesterday around maybe 6 cents or something like that. There was a different one that the Hannity one I bet as well, which was at like 4. That resolved to no. But yeah, I mean, this is up. I've seen, if you scroll down to the comments, which I think are funny and you shouldn't necessarily give any credence to, some of these, like, yes, some of these, though, the rationale here, like, isn't the worst ever, right? You have like Wisconsin being one of those places that made that Bitcoin investment.
Oh, remember? Yes, that is important.
Just like little tiny crossovers that, if I'm gonna make a bet, he just recently is speaking about crypto, wants to, appear a little bit stronger, be a little bit more forefront on the economy in his talks. Like, maybe this comes up. Why not? So that was the bet. I mean, I'm just gonna let it ride. I'm not trading out of this at this point in time at a 3x or whatever. And yeah, this is later tonight, I think. Hopefully the people of Wisconsin are graced with some Bitcoin or crypto commentary.
I think this is tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay. Yeah.
For those following. So this is a decent market. It's already got $180,000 bet. So this is bigger than any of the other ones we've been talking about. Quickly on the comments. What I do like about the comments here is that it does show the commenters' live bets. So you can see if they're just totally like BSing or if they're actually like providing rationale for what the markets they're betting on. But back to the topic here. So Trump notably has not mentioned crypto in any conversations, any of his rallies since the Bitcoin Nashville conference, which is kind of put into question, how serious of an issue is it for him? So will he mention crypto? The odds have been near zero headed into most of these rallies. It was similar here for the Wisconsin rally. It was trading at 5 to 7 cents. Now it's up to 17, with the market briefly spiking to like 40. It must have been a big bet come in. So crypto now back into a more likely talking point for his rally tomorrow. So that will be an interesting one to follow for sure. I think that's enough of our macro chatter. A few other stories here I want to talk about. These are more in the protocol space. So this was perhaps an interesting one. Not sure if you saw this. The vape to earn. So now we are just kind of going across the gamut of different actions you can take to earn in crypto. So Puffpaw, Thrill Deal announced $6 million in seed funding with vape to quit smoking and earn. It's going to be built on Barachain. Logie, is this how we get Gen Z into crypto here? Vape to earn.
Ironically, yesterday I saw something that the vaping rates are way down already. So I'm not sure this is the way that you get Gen Z in.
Maybe they're going to pick back up.
Maybe. I don't really know what to say. I actually I like the like blank to earn, like the step in type stuff. Moonwalk Fitness is doing it now. Like those things are interesting to me to incentivize certain behaviors. This one, I don't know. I just kind of laugh about this one. It doesn't feel as real, right? Like this feels more like a joke, and no knock at Puffpaw and and the ambitious team looking to make something of this, but it doesn't feel as substantial as some of those other blank to earn protocols, and maybe that's part of like the marketing here is like how the absurdity behind it. I don't know, but hopefully for their sake things work out.
It caught my attention. Sobe was defending it. I don't know if he knows the team or if he invested. I forget his post right now. But he was kind of reacting to everyone dunking on it on the timeline. Logan, you did in blank to earn. You did the grass airdrop, right? Which was, I guess,
Oh,
how
yeah.
would you characterize that one? And how was that airdrop? I think I saw rumblings that it was not the best.
Well, I saw the tweets on the timeline with people with more points than I had and their token allocations. And so I didn't even take the time and effort to check mine because I just assumed that it was nothing. So, yeah. Disappointing, but I mean, in terms of low lift airdrops, that was one of the ones during airdrop meta that was perhaps the easiest. Maybe one of the more controversial as well, given like the some of the concerns around what you were enabling. But whatever, I turned it on. I'm okay thus far, safety wise, and I'm getting maybe a couple tokens, maybe enough to buy myself a lunch or dinner.
Well, speaking of low effort airdrops, some somewhat big news from Travis Bickle and the Fantasy Top team yesterday. So he commented that last week marked the first time they've been sustainable. He's defined sustainable as able to cover both the player rewards and team payroll with their revenue. So Fantasy Top turning profitable, and it seems like they are more perhaps sustainable than ever. More market attention than I can recall. I want to check in on our heroes here on FOMO Hour. Farokh has been tweeting since he's been on his Asia spree. So we'll see if he gets back to basics when he's with us here next week. I'm trying to find Mando here. Mando has been moving up the ranks. Let's see here. Oh, yeah.
I haven't been tweeting that much.
Up only for the most part.
Okay.
Last week you had an unexpected dip, but this is your highest ranking.
Nice.
The 63, you're back to 5 stars. So,
what are you? I honestly, I need to go onto this site more often. It does feel like that's the one thing, the one shining light of crypto at the moment is Fantasy Top.
It is one. It is the shining light of Blast for sure. I guess Predict Fund trying to throw its hat in there. I had a good week. I've been pretty consistent in top 50, and the market's starting to reflect that a little bit. I'm logging in at 6 stars here, but I'm incentivized to tweet because I have my Epic card and I play it every week. So they were smart to have done that. They promised us legendary cards. We didn't get those legendaries. So I'm guessing they threw those away. Be on the lookout for hero rewards. Hero rewards should be coming in the next week or two, I would think. And those should be higher than they've been. But overall, let's take a look at the floor. I think I saw it at 0.0. Yeah, so the floor's holding in around 0.007. So down a touch. The player card rewards seem to be the big prize that folks have been going after in this market. But you need those player cards to have a decent value for that to be continue to be an ongoing valuable piece of the rewards pie. I think there's some questions, there's some chatter, a little bit of debate with stats in my replies yesterday on if that's a Ponzi, how long it will last. I think it just depends on how successful the game is, how much people want to continue to play. I think they had, along with the company turning profitable, I think we saw for the first time net buyers over net sellers, according to some of Bread's data. So they are certainly on the up there. Good to see. Shout out to the Fantasy Top team. I think in other news from the day, perhaps getting into NFTs here a little bit, a couple Blockbuster sales in the past day. Let me try to pull these up. 1 second. Recent sales. Here we are. So 8 Punk sold for 620 ETH. That was $1.5 million. What was notable about this one to me, for starters, 1.5 million is a huge sale for this NFT market. But then when you look at the past ape sales, it is about a full 2,000 ETH less than these were going for just 2 years ago. So last sales, I'll read them off. 3,300 ETH for a hoodie ape, 2.69 thousand, 2,500, 2,500, 2,500, 2.25 thousand, 1,600, 750. You have to go back to February 2021, I want to say, to really have gotten a lower price in ETH and USD terms. So we are at 3-year lows. I think the question going around is, was this a good buy? Was this a generational entry here on an ape punk. Mando, I see your eyebrows going up. Any reactions? Are you buying that an ape punk for 620 ETH or 1.5 million right now?
It's tough. The ETH FUD is deep in the market at the moment, right? So I feel this is kind of still tied to ETH to some extent, which I think is my main worry there. Other than that, I do think crypto art is super interesting and will be a field in crypto art. And punks kind of define that to a certain extent, at least the early days of it. So maybe this is going to be a digital flex. It will come back and be very, very strong. I don't know if it is the same flex that it was, like it definitely doesn't feel like it was. I think you also have in the back of your mind, like, oh wow, that must be down a lot when you see some of these punks, right? It's kind of like what people say when they see apes. It's like, oh, I feel bad, like, and that's not a great feeling. So yeah, like when you see people who have ape punks and then they're down, whatever that is, 50-60%, like maybe they're less of a babbling good. I think I'd still honestly prefer to buy the floors, like some good floor plus than these sort of, like, that's a gappy sale, right? That is a big gap. Yeah. I remember didn't Seafray sell one for like 3K ETH? Yeah. That hood, was it the hoodie?
That was his. Then yeah, he sold it for. I think there was some FUD that he sold it for too low in USD terms, perhaps. But
I think it was about 1,500 then. It was like 5 million. So yeah, that's a big gap.
It's a big gap. I think I tend to agree with you on the floors over grills. Well, I'm not really in the market for 620 NFTs at this point. Unlike the PFP and social status thing, that does ring true. I mean, back in 2021, I remember kind of being excited. Like if I got followed by a punk PFP or just in general, like looking to follow those folks as signals in the market. And I think some of that status is certainly diminished or gone away. And I don't know that, flipping your PFP to a punk has the same splash as it perhaps did, which does seem like kind of a problem, right? That was one of the parts of the bull case. When we were laying out the bull case for punks and just NFTs in general, their use as PFPs. Logan, any read that you have on this conversation, or like, are you going floors or apes? What's your take?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I like the floors play as well, but I also think this is a good buy, personally. Like if you're spending 1.5 million on an ape here, I don't think you're worried about, especially given apes, the aliens, zombies, right? Like these just don't trade very frequently. You're not worried about getting 1.75 million in 2 weeks or something like that, right? So if you can sit on your hands and you're okay with waiting for a better period, which I think we all suspect will come. At least I suspect will come for CryptoPunks and NFTs in general. I think this is a good buy. I also tend to agree though with your points on the flex feeling less significant than it did at one point in time for a variety of reasons, like Ethereum's significance, NFTs as a whole, the significance. So I can see the case both sides, but I personally, if I had 1.5 million that I didn't care about, I'm okay. I'm okay with this buy.
In the scenario where,
like, you have to also appreciate a lot of this money is people are just way more wealthy than you think they are. So
yes,
like maybe they just want to flex, and if it doesn't work out, who cares?
Right, yeah. If you're just casually splashing 1.5 million,
I mean, these CryptoPunks in particular, right? Like they're not going to go to zero. He's going to be able to get out. He or she is going to be able to get out for something. So maybe they just need a nice little tax loss harvest at some point in time. That's in play here. So I like this purchase. I like any punk purchase. Not any, but like most all punk purchases, if you have a longer time frame and you're okay with just kind of parking some ETH in a CryptoPunk, I like those.
Logan likes that. In the scenario, I think Farokh has said that he still thinks punks could go to $1 million floor. In that scenario, then this is a great buy. Now, I think on the flip side, if you are an ETH max, if you think ETH goes to 10K, ETH at 10K, if this ape holds at 620, that's what, 6.2 million. So you'd be 4xing in USD, but then the question would be, would it hold that ETH floor? I think that's another risk vector to this market. But splashy sale, the person probably doesn't care that much. They're not sweating the buy here in the near term. It was interesting also to see a zombie move this morning. Punks OTC picked up this zombie Mohawk here for 240 ETH. I think that's also the lowest we've seen in ETH terms. Yeah, like of all the sales on the board. So if Punks OTC is buying it, he's got a price point that he likes. Other than that, not a whole lot of action on the NFT board here this week. I think one last quick story before we wrap things up. I thought this was a fun one here out of Avax. So Avax does keep cooking. So the American Psycho Film Studio has launched a film fund on Avax. Pressman Film, they announced this new investment platform called Republic. It is on the Avalanche blockchain. Pressman is a notable studio. They're behind legendary titles like Wall Street and American Psycho. I think that gives a little bit more weight to this news. Through their new Republic platform, fans and investors can contribute to film production. With as little as $200, you buy a stake in a slate of films to be produced. So far, they've raised $300,000 against a $1.5 million goal. The way it's going to work is the new fund will support 6 potential films on this initial slate. 3 are based on existing film IP, 3 original movies. Investors will only receive payouts if one or more of those films makes it into production. The returns look like this. So if the film makes it to production, investors receive a portion of Pressman's producing and rights fees. And then if it actually makes it further, if it gets into release and distribution, then investors will receive a portion of net profits. Given the low odds of those outcomes, Pressman is also offering investors some perks like movie set visits, producer credits, and premiere tickets. I've got a quote here pulled up from Edward Pressman, but I think what's interesting about this, I like this use of blockchain. And Logan, I want to throw it to you for thoughts on that. But will this be a good investment? That is the trickier question. So we've got crypto folks perhaps starting to throw their ring in film investing. Just for a recent example, I think they covered it in this article as well. But Pressman's last film, The Crow, folks might remember that title. It's a reboot of the 1994 original. That bombed this year at the box office. It had a $50 million marketing budget and netted just $4.6 million in opening weekend. So investing in film, certainly not a slam dunk, but a pretty cool use of blockchain nonetheless. So Logan, any reactions to this story?
Yeah, cool. Cool use of the blockchain. I've used Republic before to invest in things like Gumroad and maybe like a CBD company or something. Just offers access to investments that the little guy typically wouldn't have access to. So that's kind of cool to be able to get in here. This is a fun one as well, especially if you're okay with just kind of probably not making money, right? But like taking some of those perks. It almost feels like a Kickstarter in a way, right? Like you might get your name in the credits, and that's cool, right? That's worth the $200 or whatever the minimum investment level is. So I'm game for all this. Avax continues to be at the forefront of new, innovations, new partnerships. So that's awesome as well for Avax. We talked about some of those things earlier this week. Excited to see what happens. It's been a busy week for film type stuff. I don't know if you saw, not to segue too much, but Calidita, the film that was funded by NFTs, is going to be on Netflix Spain as well. So that was pretty cool. It's been a nice week for IP, blockchain, movies, those types of things. Hopefully we continue to see it. It's a nice, like, creative way to utilize blockchain that feels, a little more human than payments and finance and those types of things that are perhaps a bit more boring for the normal person.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just fun, right? Like people are Trader Cause is complaining about the market being boring. I think it's easier than ever in 2024 to be a seed investor via some of these new protocols that are going around and being able to invest in projects, before they hit the broader market. That's easier than it's ever been for people who just show up to crypto Twitter every day. Like you can figure that out. Now you can invest in things like films, and whether or not it's a good bet, I think is beside the point. Like it's fun to be able to throw a few $100s and perhaps say you're an investor in the next American cycle. I think that's a fun thing to do. And we were just talking about the crypto wealthy who are splashing $1.5 million into an ape punk. Perhaps they want a producer credit on an upcoming film. So there's more and more options. There's more things to do. And bullish AVAX, like AVAX keeps cooking. I think we've got, on a weekly basis, we're reporting on new things, on ways they're innovating and pushing the needle. So not sleeping.
I'm seeing 10 grand plus. If you invest $10,000 plus end credit in one film, similar to a special thanks credit.
Not bad.
So if you're real wealthy and you really want that special thanks, $10,000. That's all it'll cost you.
I mean, some of the other perks, I think that's probably the least interesting, but like premiere movie tickets, set visits, those are kind of nice perks, especially if you're a film buff. Go rub elbows with some celebs. But I think that is a roundup of today's news here, folks. We went around the horn. No roll bit spins today. We are going to be going hard on those next week. Perhaps a double dip on our 200th show next Friday. We'll certainly find out. Farokh is back. We are excited for that. Shout out to all of our listeners who tuned in for today's show. We will be back on Monday, breaking down all the weekend action. As for today, go have a great Friday. Go make it a beautiful day. Goodbye.